Governing body of Clatsop County, all county service districts for which this board so acts, and as the Clatsop County Local Contract Review Board is now meeting in regular session. Will you please join me for the flag salute? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. May I have the roll call, please?
Here.
Commissioner Clement.
Here.
Commissioner Lee.
Here.
Commissioner Sullivan.
Yes.
And Commissioner Thompson.
Is excused, yes? Yep. Okay, looking for a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
So moved. Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the agenda as presented. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Agenda is approved. This is a time for business from the public. This is an opportunity for anyone to give a 3-minute presentation about any item on the agenda except public hearings or any topic of county concern that is not on the agenda. People wishing to speak during business from the public must fill out and sign a public comment signing card. We have a guest tonight, Pamela Way. Come on up. Did I pronounce that right? Webb. Welcome. Could you please state your name and address for the record, please? Welcome. Good evening.
Good evening. My name is... You want me to sit? Okay. I will sit. Okay. My name is Pamela Webb. I reside at 1566 Irving Avenue in Astoria. I attended the March 8th meeting about the feasibility study that you all are entertaining for preschool services. Since then, in going over the contracts, et cetera, I've sent a memorandum to the county manager and asked that some questions be answered. However, in his reply to me, he didn't answer any of the questions. And so for the record, I would like to reiterate those questions. The commission seemed to be very unfamiliar with the project that they were considering. And so my questions are, who or what entity actually proposed the grant application? When was the application made? When did the commissioners vote to apply for and accept the grant? What public involvement contributed to this decision? This is a program that includes Tillamook County, and I wondered what had been the involvement with the Tillamook County commissioners in this, either the consideration of applying for the grant or how to in integrating them into perhaps the results or the process of the program as well. Also, is Clatsop County supporting the consultant time and the expenses that will actually take place in Tillamook County, for which Tillamook County will be the beneficiary? So I think those are I copied all the commissioners on the memorandum that I sent to the county manager. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, that concludes business from the public. We're going to move on to our business agenda. And our first item on the business agenda is the...
Consent calendar.
Oh. It's not here. I will add it in. Looking for a motion to approve the consent calendar as presented.
So moved. Second.
We have a motion to second approve the consent calendar. All those in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Consent calendar is approved. We're going to now move on to the business agenda. Our first item on the business agenda is the management agreement with Clatsop Behavioral Health Care on page 57. May I have the staff report, please?
Yes, not a new item, certainly something that's been talked about for a great deal of time. What this particular agreement revolves around is the North Coast Crisis Respite Center. Just for a little bit of background, the Crisis Respite Center is kind of a four-way partnership. It includes Clatsop County, Greater Oregon Behavioral Health, Inc., Columbia Memorial Hospital, and Providence Seaside. And basically, these four entities got together and formed a separate entity called the Caring for Clatsop Coalition, which essentially serves as the board of directors, if you will, for the North Coast Crisis Respite Center. What this agreement is an agreement that's been in development for quite some time. I probably looked at the first draft a year ago when I got here. And this is an agreement between essentially the board, the Caring for Clatsop Coalition, composed of the four partners that I just mentioned, and Clatsop Behavioral Health to actually operate the North Coast Crisis Respite Center. You know, one of the things frankly I've been concerned about, and I think the other partners have been concerned about, is the Respite Center opened last July. It's been operated by Clatsop Behavioral Health with no contract. So we really don't have any agreement with them, even though they've actually been operating the Crisis Respite Center, which is really the responsibility of the Caring for Clatsop Coalition. Now, we have regular meetings with them. They attend the coalition meetings. But one of the things that we really needed to get done is to get this management agreement in place. I don't know for certain, but I know that the other four partners were all in the process of approving this management agreement kind of on the same time frame that we're on. So basically, you know, certainly present this for your consideration, and happy to answer any questions.
I have a question. So what's the cost to the other partners? What do they put in?
Well, there's no upfront cost. The way that the agreement is structured is that on an annual basis, that CBH, Clatsop Behavioral Health, as the operator, the manager, if there is a profit, they would keep the first $50,000 in profit. Anything above that will be shared equally among the four partners. If it is a loss on an annual basis, it's the same situation. CBH would basically accept the first $50,000 of loss. The four partners would share then in any loss beyond that. Now, if you've had a chance, I hope you have, to look through the agreement. As a result of that, the coalition actually has quite a bit of authority over the, not CBH's budget, but the budget for the Respite Center. So the Caring for Clatsop Coalition basically would review and approve the budget for the Respite Center every year. And if CBH deviated from that budget, they actually have to come back to the coalition and get our authorization to do that. So our protection, if you will, is sort of in that active management as a member of the Caring for Clatsop Coalition, working with our other three partners.
Is part of the plan for the respite center that it will have those 4 beds that are residential, or not residential, but they can sleep secure?
The secure beds.
And that was part of a piece that they were working on getting in place, right? That getting the right staff and billing.
Yeah,
Is that in place yet, or?
It's not in place yet. That's still the intent.
Necessary for the budget to go forward?
Well, it's still the intent. It's been delayed, I'm going to say 6 months to a year. And there's a lot of reasons for that. One is a licensing issue. If you're going to hold people against their will, you have to have a proper facility, inspected, licensed, et cetera, and there's some legalities involved in that. The second piece of it is that if you just think about it really just logically for a moment, the secure beds are very expensive to operate because they have to be staffed 24/7, 365 days a year, assuming someone's in them. And with a certain type of personnel, because these folks are in a secure, they're there for a reason. So there's a couple things that happened here, and one is that CBH kind of got ahead of everybody, and I think ahead of themselves last summer. Started hiring people for the respite center. You know, I think before there was kind of like a clear strategy or a clear business plan, and basically have had to go through some restructuring of the staff, restructuring of the finances of the respite center. And the goal is still to get to the 4 beds, but I think we realize now that that's probably 6 to 12 months away.
I recently read an article about people leaving, being hospitalized, and that there's a difficult period for them once they get out of the hospital, and perhaps a respite center might be an option for that situation. I don't know. That's different than a secure bed, but.
Yeah.
I have a question, Kim. So have the other members of CCC approved this yet? Or are we the first?
Well, I can't tell you for sure. I know that they've all reviewed it. They all said they were comfortable, and everybody said, okay, we're all comfortable. Let's go to our various governing bodies and
Right.
ask
So
for their
they're-
approval. So that could be done, or it's in progress right now.
Did any of the members have any concerns that were expressed to you?
There were initially concerns. That's why this thing has gone through some iterations over the past year, and I think that the current form everybody is comfortable with.
Great. I'm good with this.
Yeah, I just still would like to know, I mean, I'm supportive of this, but do we know what, like, the hospitals, what they put in?
What they put in?
Cost-wise, so the county is budgeting $100,000. It's in the budget.
I believe they said they've each budgeted $100,000
Okay, that's,
for this.
yeah. Thank you. Well, yeah, Mr. Chair. I move to approve the management agreement and authorize the county manager to sign.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the management agreement with Classic Behavioral Health Care and authorize the county manager to sign. All those in favor? Aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you. Our next item is the participation in the North Coast Blue Sky Community Challenge. This is an item we tabled from last meeting.
They're not here.
No.
And, page 71. So at the last meeting, we tabled this, and I was interested in kind of learning a little more about the program, particularly the aspect of us becoming a partner and, let's see if I get my wording right here. The 3% participation from Clatsop County customer specific power. Is that 2,700 figure, is that the amount it would cost us to be a full partner?
The $2,700 figure would be if we actually commit to our maximum participation, which would be to become an EPA Green Power partner. What that would mean is that the county itself would purchase 10% of our energy from renewable resources, and the increased cost to purchase that 10% is $2,700 a year. So if we stayed with our current sources, we wouldn't spend that money. If we wanted to go ahead and make the maximum commitment here, that we in fact would also purchase green power, not just encourage others to do so, that cost will be an additional $2,700 a year.
And that just shows an incentive to help other citizens or businesses to, you know, kind of shows that we have a stake. Right.
Looks pretty good.
Is this, if we reach 3% of participation with the other residents in the county?
Yep.
And they'll donate 1 kilowatt solar generating station?
Correct.
What will that mean for us?
Well, we would have to decide what we want to do with that, but we would have if we achieve that goal, we would get, at no cost to us, a 1 kilowatt generating solar that we could use to power a county facility, part of a county facility. We could start generating some of our own power, I guess is the point, and we would have to decide where and how we might want to use that.
And according to the Pacific Power presentation, we're very close to that already, without their work being implemented in the community yet.
And is this approved year by year? This commitment?
It's an annual challenge,
Right.
but you have to achieve the 3% participation rate to get the solar generating station within a year.
Okay.
I'm sure that they will offer other incentives, I would think, to continue to participate and promote renewable power in the future, but I don't know what that might be.
So there's two ways to go. If we go enroll in the Blue Sky Community Challenge, then we can work towards that 3% participation to get the kilowatt solar.
Yeah, if we just enroll, basically our role will be kind of promoting people to, choose to buy renewable power. I do want to mention, since we met last time, the city of Warrenton actually has signed on to this. So
On what level?
so they're a recent convert to this. But our role then would really be just promoting that, encouraging.
Probably already active.
Did they sign up for just a member, or did they become a?
They did option 3. They enrolled in the
Right.
Blue Sky Challenge, but they did not commit to purchasing any renewable energy themselves.
If there still isn't, if we did this, if we became the member now of the challenge, and if there's still an EPA next year, could we? Sorry, I had to say that. Could we become a green power partner in the future?
I would certainly hope so. Frankly, I think that's a pretty powerful statement. I think the information that was shared last time, if we do this, we would be the first county in Oregon and the second county in the country to do it
For $2,700.
for $2,700 a year.
Well, make the motion.
Chair Lee,
Yep.
I move that Clatsop County enroll in the North Coast Blue Sky and Community Challenge and commit to becoming an EPA Green Power Partner.
Second.
We have a motion to second the Clatsop County enroll in the North Coast Blue Sky Community Challenge and commit to becoming an EPA Green Power Partner. Is there any further deliberations or questions? Seeing no further deliberations, all those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. Okay. And finally, on our business agenda is item 6C, the preschool feasibility study personal professional services contract, page 73. This is another item that we have tabled since our previous meeting. And so here we are. We're back to this. And I think what I'm going to do here is I'm going to allow a conversation to go, and we can ask. Is Dan's here, right? Hi, Dan. Good to see you again. Welcome back. We may have some questions for you today, and I would encourage if any members of the board have any questions for Mr. Gaffney or staff. I've been looking at this over the week myself. I am curious to know some of the concerns and comments that commissioners have. One thing I want to find out from either Mr. Gaffney or Cameron, Mr. Moore, when's the cutoff date on this for this grant? When's the point of no return?
Well, the project commencement date is April 1.
April 1st.
So I would think if we do not begin on April 1, certainly the Department of Education would probably want to know why.
Okay. So does any of the members of the commission have any questions for staff or Mr. Gaffney concerning the concerns that they have?
Yes.
Okay, Kathleen?
I don't want to start. Well, I have a number of questions, and I guess I like the idea that I just think we need to spend some time talking about this. I've tried to find out what I can. I've talked to Mr. Moore several times. So I'm just going to start with a couple, I guess. So if we're going to go to, my concern is what is the benefit to the county and what is the cost to the county? That's my bottom line to this. So that's kind of the answers that I'd like to find. I did some research on pay for success programs, and it seems to be kind of mixed. It seems like it's in the early stages, where some is successful and some is not, but it also, what I read is every project is so different that it doesn't necessarily go to the next project. So that brings me a question of these intermediaries that we're going to be getting. If every project is different, you know, that seems, how does their experience apply to this project? The other bottom line thing that I have is that we did get awarded this grant. This was a very competitive grant, and it's an honor to have been chosen. You know, Representative Bonamici's office was pleased that we got this grant. And I know that a lot of people have been working very hard on this. It's just that I have a lot of questions that I don't have answers to, and I feel, frankly, very uncomfortable making a decision where I don't have all the answers in place. And I hate the fact that we have this looming deadline. It's kind of unfortunate. So perhaps, Dan, you can tell us what you think the benefit would be. And I don't need, in all due respect, I don't need a reiteration of how important preschool is.
I understand.
I understand that, you know. So what is it specifically that this county is going to get, and what is the cost? Because when I looked at the, Mr. Moore sent me the narrative attachment, and it talks about payor, which seems to be us.
Not
And-
necessarily.
And that's some of the questions. So maybe you could start and we could add in.
Sure.
Thank you.
First of all, I appreciate the seriousness with which you're taking this, because it is a unique situation, a unique opportunity. First question I want to respond to is, what are we going to get from this? We're going to get a lot of information, a lot of data. We're going to collect it from various sources throughout the county and Tillamook County to see what's possible first of all, what are our current resources in terms of staffing, in terms of space, in terms of interest. We're going to find out what are the needs, how many children would qualify or potentially qualify for this kind of an opportunity, because we're saying that we want to zero in on children at 300% of the poverty level and below, and those that are learning English as a second language. And so we'll gather simply a lot of information that we'll be able to present to the folks who would be most impacted by this. Number one would be the school districts. But down the road, it may be the county in terms of the long-term benefits of having people who are not engaged with law enforcement in a corrective manner comes to mind. So in terms of potential payers, the most likely and most significant payers, and it would be their choice after we get all the
Okay.
information, would be school districts and the ESD, the state of Oregon, those who are paying for education right now.
But if this is, how is this going to benefit ultimately public preschools? Because like, when we had the outline, the majority of the research is really going to go into private preschools, because that's what we mostly have, and that's where most of your concerns are, because they're not as regulated. So my concerns is ultimately, will this be ultimately taking away from public preschool funding? Because really that's where our focus should be.
Right now, unless a school district like Warrenton or like Jewel, who have paid for their own preschools or charged the participants for those preschools, essentially nobody else has public preschools, with the exception in Tillamook County, Neocani School District also has some. And I'm not sure if they have parents paying for some of those spaces or not. The state of Oregon last year provided dollars for the preschool promise slots, and that's how Astoria School District formed theirs this year. And Tillamook School District received some of those funds, and they divided them up into 3 different preschools that were already existing and paid for some of those slots. So really what this comes down to is working with the private and the public preschools to see if they want to be a part of this project, see if they're interested in learning more, find out what their capacities are. And then, again, that becomes part of the data report, the overall report that we'd be creating to then present to the potential payers. Potential payers, like I said, would be the school districts. If they want to partner with a private preschool who wants to be a part of this high-quality preschool offering, then that's kind of up to the school district to decide. It's not for me or actually for you. It would be the school districts who, if they're the primary payer, they would be involved in basically contract negotiations. And that's part of what the intermediary would help do, would be to help clarify the kind of data we're getting, how we present that, and help the payers understand what they may gain from this.
So is a possibility of what they may gain would, if in a rural area where you've got some districts that are better funded than others. So could you argue that this could help level a playing field across counties, between districts?
It would,
To give
Well,
better...
and just, because I think this is part of Lisa's question too, Dan, I think it would also be fair to say one of the goals here would be to bring up the quality of private preschools as well.
right,
Look
and that's
at
why
the
they'd be
quality of
invited.
staff, the quality of training, the quality of services, what can we do to bring the quality up and also create more opportunities for people to have access to these services?
So
And also,
basically, my question is that it could potentially level the playing field out a bit to bring more kids into it.
right, because the kids are our target, not the school districts, no one other than the kids and their families, as I described already.
Right.
The 300% and below, and the, which many of the private preschools are not able to serve because the parents can't afford to pay for it.
So the children at Warrenton, are they paying the same as it would cost for another private preschool, or is it less because the district is allowing use of the building?
That's part of the data that we'd be gathering during this feasibility study, is to find out what are people paying in different locations, and how do those slots cost? How much do they cost? You know, I know that the state allocated monies for the preschool promise classrooms 1 year. Unless they choose to renew it during this current legislative session, those go away. And so that's part of what we're after too, is to figure out what's the stability for the preschool opportunities for all kids, as well as, in particular, for those less able to pay for it themselves.
Right.
So I can't give you a direct answer to your question about do Warrenton kids pay less than private school preschools?
But maybe you would find that out
Yes,
in this
yes.
research.
And that's the thing, is this allows us to gather all that pertinent information and put it into a common format that helps everybody in terms of planning. Because like you said, I think everybody can agree that offering preschool is a good thing.
So, yeah, So, I'm sorry, but you're not going to be studying the children that are in Head Start. So.
I'm not allowed to.
But what percentage of the counties, or the Tillamook and Clatsop counties are already involved in Head Start? Does that change what we're finding out here? The kids that most need are already in Head Start?
Head Start's able to serve children that are at the 100% of poverty level and below. They're not allowed to, well, with few exceptions.
You can have, I have a lot of experience with this. You can have up to 10% under certain circumstances of kids who are over income. But you have to have at least 90% of the people, the kids that are in Head Start, come from families that I would call in extreme poverty. Mm-hmm. And in most programs, it's probably 100%.
So our intention is not to compete with Head Start. But during this feasibility study, U.S. Department of Ed said we cannot include them in our feasibility study. Mm-hmm. When it comes time to implementation, that's up to the people that make that decision in terms of whether we implement anything or not. That's not up to me or this study.
Right, so this grant is to you, what we're looking at today is for you to be the manager of this grant, correct?
That's my understanding.
And then you have like 3 people that be working under you? 3 additional people?
There's one other position to be hired as a data assistant to help in collecting and arranging the data that we gather. And then Way to Wellville or Care Oregon has offered the services of Sydney Van Dusen to some degree, to a limited degree, I think 10 hours a week.
Right, Cindy and Tara.
And then Tara Mestrich currently works for Child Care Resource and Referral, and she's committed to, her supervisors have committed her, I believe it was 5 hours a week.
Does that mean the people that they work for will be paying for their 10 hours a week?
Correct.
Okay, so
no additional cost for those last two.
Okay, and then so the salary, like we talked about at the last meeting, your salary will come out of the grant, and then the money that's remaining in the grant, that is going to the intermediaries?
Part of it goes to the data assistant. There's $30,000 for the data assistant, and then the bulk of it goes to the intermediary. And the intermediary typically is a team of people who work, 3-4 people that are working on helping guide this data collection process.
So what would you estimate that amount to be?
$225,000 is what we had in the budget.
That's for
So
the
up to
intermediary,
that.
for up to 1 year?
Yes.
And the budget that Dan just kind of walked through, that was actually part of the actual grant application, which was submitted last October. And so that was reviewed by the Department of Education and accepted that budget. And I only say that because it does happen from time to time. I've managed probably $250 million or $300 million in federal grants in my career. Sometimes they come back and say, we don't like your budget. You know, you're spending too much on this, not enough on that. In this case, they accepted the budget that was submitted. And actually, to deviate from that very much, we'd probably have to go back to Department of Ed and get their approval.
Yes, we would. That's the direction they've given us.
Was this grant originally formatted or whatever, meant to study pay for success? I mean, what was the perimeter of this
U.S.
grant?
Department of Ed issued the opportunity for government or tribal entities to apply for pay for success preschool feasibility studies. So they want to see us look at the potential of doing a pay for success funded preschool
So from the get-go, that's what this grant was for?
as one of the options. And part of what the intermediary would help us do, once we gather this information, is help us determine whether a pay-for-success approach would be feasible to the potential payers or to potential philanthropic or investors.
So can you clarify, the $350,000 grant was given only to be used for the pay for success model?
To be used only for the feasibility study to consider pay for success or another funding opportunity. But pay for success has to be considered, yes.
So-
But
But we're not considering anything else. We're only
Oh, we
talking
will.
about
Yeah.
the pay for success model, right?
no, we will look at other options.
But what we're looking at now is the $90,000 for the pay for
To
success.
gather data,
In regards to the pay for success model, we're not studying any other models here, right?
we will study other models as the data is put together.
Yeah,
We'll look to see, is it feasible to pursue pay for success, or is it more feasible to go another direction? And that's what the payers,
Other models.
I don't know.
What are those other models that we're studying within the?
It may be that we are going after more grants. Oregon Community Foundation was one of those who put forth a letter of support for this, and they have actually contacted me a couple of times since then to kind of know, where are you at? Do you need more support? Craft 3 was another one who provided a letter of support. Very interested to see how this goes.
That's kind of where I'm at. See, I'm not a big fan of pay for success thing at all, really. I think it's flawed on so many different levels, but that's not really the question to me. The question is we have this money and we're going to get some data out of it. And I want, and if that data can apply to something that's more palatable to our interests as far as a policy concerning preschool, then to me, that data is valuable. And so that's why I basically support this for that reason. I
Thank you.
think it's not a problem for me to say, no, I don't agree with the Pay for Success program as the way I perceive it, and some of the movement and the agenda like I've articulated at the previous meetings. But I think what the value here is that we have professionals and expertise. They're going to collect this data, and we've got the money to do it. When that data belongs to us, we'll be able to bring that data back here. And then the other aspect of this, and I wish we would have had more public input over this, because I think the process has been rushed, honestly.
Yes.
And that's another concern, but that's not really what we're voting on here. So in a perfect world, I would have liked to have more time with this, more public input. That being said, it's my personal opinion that we should go forward with this. And one of the things, the takeaway for me is that I've gotten calls from folks, people have come in, and it's created a conversation, okay? And so that's, to me, is really important. People are going to understand that, wow, we really do we have to fund these. We don't have funding. A lot of people probably are surprised that we have the lack of preschool that we have. So in that way, I think that I can use my position in shaping policy to use this and some of the controversy surrounding it to bring a conversation to bear about preschool and our lack of it and things that we need to do. And I can also articulate during this process that I don't agree with, some of the outcomes of Pay for Success or their intentions of it. But then again, my hope is that it will create more community conversation. And I think that you, from my perception and some of the things that you said, is that you concur with that.
Very much so.
And yeah, and so that you're willing to look at other models. This is
Absolutely.
You're not getting paid $90,000 to just say, I'm all about this, I'm going to channel this data and information to look like path to success is the way. But you are,
True.
you have an open educator mind that's going to say, we're going to look at this. And this gives the opportunity for the board to get educated and the community to get educated. So that's kind of where I'm at right now. And so that's what I have to say about it, and I'll let some other folks.
Go ahead, Sarah.
I
Go
have,
ahead.
can you clarify, and you probably already have, but, so, in the project abstract, it says, through the feasibility study, we will focus on assessing the expansion of a new evidence-based program. What is the new and the evidence-based? This is kind of what Chair Lee was talking about.
Right.
Is this feasibility study just pushing us down this slippery slope of we have to, all the data is going to come out to show that, yeah, we need to have a hedge fund company help us. And you're saying no, but what does this mean?
Evidence-based programs, sometimes people refer to them as research-based, okay? Research-based really takes it to a high level of intricacy to basically prove that they're always going to come out with the same outcomes. Evidence-based is a little step lower. I'll use a couple of programs as an example. Pocket Full of Feelings is a kit, is a tool that has been introduced to Clatsop County through the efforts of many folks. You know, we used it in some of the preschools, we're using it in some of the elementary schools as a way to help kids begin to identify their feelings, and once they can identify those, then they have a better chance of controlling them and knowing how to use them appropriately. That's not a evidence-based program at this point in time because there was no testing done before this was started to be used. So we can't show that any improvement or any change has occurred. It'll be more anecdotal, more gut feeling. Yeah, kids are getting along better and there's not the problems. That's not an evidence-based program. Mm-hmm. Second Steps is another social emotional tool. It's actually more of a program. It is something that's been used pretty extensively in Columbia County. It's been used to some degree in Clatsop County schools. I had it involved in my school when I was principal. And again, it's focused on social emotional growth, and yet there's specific strategies to be used to do it appropriately so as to come up with the results we're after. What makes it evidence-based is when it was first implemented, it was piloted with some baseline information and then looked at after being used and some post-piloting information was gathered. And so now there's evidence because it was done with fidelity in the way that it was designed and gets these results. It's an evidence-based program. So how this applies to the preschool programs is we'd be looking at teaching reading, writing, math, social emotional growth, those kinds of things, utilizing programs that are evidence-based. That doesn't mean that there aren't other tools used also within those preschools, but the bulk of the instruction would be utilizing evidence-based programs.
Would,
Oh, okay, hold on. Are you done?
And so again,
Come
it
back
goes
to
back to, is this possible? That's what this feasibility study is asking. Is it possible to have these evidence-based programs available to our kids?
And, okay, so you gave me an example of the Pocket Full of Feelings booklet. So, but that's not evidence-based because there hasn't been a study
Not
done
yet.
for that.
And the creator of that is looking at moving in that direction.
So you're saying that, unless I'm misunderstanding, this evidence will be gathered in 1 year?
No,
to find out-
there are already programs out there, and Head Start uses predominantly evidence-based programs.
Okay.
And so many of the,
But what
There-
is the new evidence-based? That's what the word here, the expansion of a new evidence-based program. Is that the pay for success, or is
No.
that something else?
no, it has nothing to do with the funding. It's how the preschool is run. Is it run using predominantly evidence-based programs? Like I said, I don't know what preschools curriculum are being, what kind of curriculum various preschools are using. I know some use more of a faith-based program. Some are using things that the teacher is creating themselves. Some are using some that are published and paid for. And so that's part of what we want to find out is what's out there. And if we're going to have payers be a part of this, they're going to want to know that the money they pay is going to something that's high quality. And that's why we look at those that are evidence-based, because that's what a school board, a school superintendent, you know, the folks that are running those are going to be looking for. They don't want to put the money into something that feels good. They want to put the money into something that is known to come up with the kinds of results they're after.
Sure. So hypothetically, if you do this, when you do this feasibility study, and you come up with, there's so many variations in all these private preschools that are
Right.
throughout the county, and none of them are, or maybe one, is using anything that's evidence-based,
Okay?
then that's what you come up with? It's,
And
we don't
and then
have it?
part of it would be the conversation with them in terms of if this can be, if we can provide you with the materials, do you want to be a part of this? Because that's part of what would be purchased to implement this, would be the curriculum that's agreed upon.
What are the materials and who were they purchased from?
Again, I'll use Head Start as an example. Head Start across the country has gone through and paid people to determine what are evidence-based programs in the area of reading, what are evidence-based programs in the area of writing, evidence-based program. And so we could utilize those lists
Okay.
and say, and those are some of the things that we wrote into the grant as examples of evidence-based programs that we would consider. Is that a finite list? It is in terms of how we wrote it, but once we get into the conversations with those who would be involved in this, we may find other evidence-based programs that would fit the bill, that would please the payers and also be a part of the plan that we put together. And that plan is not put together now. The plan will be created by local folks.
Okay. I think I'm still confused about the new evidence-based program. I'm confused.
I don't
Sorry.
completely understand the concept of, or the details of social impact bonds.
And
The pay for success model goes by,
And those are slightly two different things, but those are funding things, and we're not doing our focus is on gathering the data to see what's possible here in Clatsop and Tillamook counties.
Okay, so what you're saying, I completely agree with. I'm confused by the model, and I think I agree what you say. You're saying that we certainly can't go wrong with having the information. I mean, that's just what we all agree with. And I agree with, I think everything you're saying sounds wonderful. But that's really not what is in here. In here, in the informational summary, is, the goal is to provide high-quality preschools so that our children are well-prepared for kindergarten. Pay for Success is a promising approach to support our efforts to expand high-quality preschool with a focus on evidence-based programs and curricula. So, if we're not completely sold on the Pay for Success model,
Then we do not have to go there.
but that's what is in, that we're talking about tonight in this.
Well,
tonight.
actually, what we're talking about tonight is a contract with Dan to be the project coordinator for the feasibility study.
My question is, where are the other models that we will be studying within the feasibility study, because all I see is one model.
Well, there's part of what you have to understand is, and this is always true, there's a bit of grantsmanship here. I mean, if the Department of Education says, we're going to provide this money to study the pay for success model or other alternatives, and we send an application in saying we're not interested in studying pay for success, we're not going to get funded. And
We just
so,
want to know what.
so a lot of the terms that that you're picking out, this is the title of the grant. This is what the Department of Education calls this, and so we're using their terms that they have used to describe and construct this grant to give them a indication that we understand what this grant is for, but that's not the only thing that it's for. And I don't know any other way to say it. I know it's been said over and over again. We get to the end of this, we don't have to do anything. And everyone seems to be concerned that we're committing to something, to the unknown, which I understand. The purpose of the feasibility study is to give you some knowns. And once you have those, then you can decide what you're going to do. And without that, it's kind of a hard decision to make, what makes most sense for us, here in Clatsop County. So, again, I just don't know any other way other than to say that at the conclusion of the feasibility study, and I think Dan said this earlier, I don't frankly think it will be, I don't think it should be the County Board of Commissioners that would make a decision about what happens. I think it becomes the school districts, the community. People are going to have to say, hey, listen, there's something here that we like, that we think we can line up behind, or there isn't something here that we like, and we can't line up behind it. But you have to do a certain amount of work to get to that decision point.
So you will look at other models. You won't just look at the.
Yes, and I can't
social
put a name
impact.
on those other models because I don't know what else is there other than to say we will definitely reach out to philanthropic organizations, potential investors. But again, part of that, we're going to learn as we go about what else is out there. Since this has appeared in the paper back last September, October, whenever it was that the Daily Astorian did a piece on preschools, it's been pretty amazing, the different folks, quite honestly, from across the country who have reached out to us and say, hey, we're interested in this. Keep us in mind. We want to see what we can do to help. I got an email yesterday from Portland State University, from somebody who heads up, a lot of their data collection piece that's been involved in the Earl Boyles program and that, saying, I'm working with somebody else down in Eugene on this project. Would that be something that you'd be interested in? So again, there's
Okay.
amazing resources that are out there that this is beginning to open a door for us,
Okay.
and we're not making any decisions whether to be on board with any of this or not. We're just going to gather information, and then the decision makers can make decisions, and it will not be me. I will present it in as clean a way as I possibly can.
And then that would be presented back to us before it goes to whoever makes the decision of what to do with it. And intermittently, we would see how it's going. We would get.
Be happy to keep you informed. Mike, on that note, there's many groups that want to be informed as we move along. And one of the things I want to do is I want to consolidate those as best I can so that I'm not giving one report to each of the 8 school districts and each of the county commissioner boards and as separate reports. I want to be able to share the information as we're going along. So, as you said, people are educated as we move along, find out how it's going, and awareness is there, and that's a good thing.
Yeah, I think like I said, it increases the community conversation.
But I would, and I appreciate what Dan just said. This is the kind of place where it's probably good for me to remind you that as a grant recipient and fiscal agent, your first obligation is probably to keep the county board informed. So,
Thank you.
Commissioner
I will.
So what you're describing about evidence-based program, what strikes me is that what I know about teachers and is that there's a wide range of teachers, and there's a wide range of the way that people interact with children, and sometimes it has nothing to do with what the curriculum is in the classroom.
True.
It's the relationship and the talent and the compassion and love that that teacher gives the child. And that's not something that necessarily can be duplicated, but you can learn from those things. And so I'm hoping of what you're saying is when you go out and look at the existing preschools and care facilities or, you know, out there, that you're going to be looking at that, because I am more interested in knowing what works. And I, coming from an education background myself, I know how hard I worked as an educator, and I think that we are underselling oftentimes these plans to change things. They don't seem to go to the educators. They don't seem to go to the people that are dedicating their lives to doing this. They have somebody else who has a plan to sell a textbook or some other plan, and they're not the actual people that are spending their lives doing this. And I know how difficult it is. You know, so that's one of my concerns. I hope that the respect is given to the people that are out there doing it.
Very
You know, I
much
mean,
so.
you're from education, you know what I'm talking
Yeah,
about.
absolutely. I agree with you wholeheartedly.
The thing that what I've read also about this is that I think we all can agree that we need help getting preschool nationwide, but where do we get the money? And, you know, when they're talking about cutting money for Meals on Wheels, what chance does preschool have? But, so how do we go about and get the money? Well, we have a lot of people that have a great deal of money. We can talk about that in another way, but that there's a lot of people that have a lot of money. Is there a way to motivate them to contribute their money to helping these social programs? I think that's part of what I'm understanding this pay for success is.
Exactly.
What I'm concerned about, but it sounds like we're not quite there yet, but from what little reading I've done is that if they keep the objectives manageable, then it has a greater chance of being successful. I think there's a lot of variations within this page of success that we're all concerned about that we don't know because it's new. So are you saying that this grant is only to do research and it's going to be open-ended research, and that you're not just looking for evidence, that you're looking for how things are interacting now and collecting data on that level?
I'm looking at collecting data on what exists now, as well as I'll be doing research on what it would cost to be able to provide high-quality preschool and see how these two mesh.
But the intermediaries aren't going to be going to the preschool and saying, this is the evidence-based program I want you to try for the next year, and then we'll check off that?
That is not my expectation. That's not my understanding, no.
Yeah, they actually work for us, not the other way around.
Okay.
Right. And they're not coming in with, this is what you're going to do, you know, in terms of,
They're coming in as observers and data collectors.
yes. Well, we'll be collecting the data, but they're going to help us figure out what kind of data is going to be helpful, utilize some of their experience. That's why we're looking for people who have experience, not just in pay for success, but in preschools.
Well, I agree with Chairman Lee with that. I really am encouraging, and maybe encourage isn't a strong enough word. I want more input along the way if this vote goes for this. Just superficially, when this information came out, I was thinking, oh, good, we're getting preschools. Then we find out that, no, we're not getting preschools. We're getting a study for preschools, which it has value. We're entering into the world of big data, which I don't think is going to be, we're already there, but people like me, I don't know enough about it, but I know that it's like The Graduate when I think, what was the thing at the party, plastics? Now the thing that they whisper at cocktail parties is big data, big data. You know, that's the future. And we're here, we're at the brink. So that's why I'm more willing to try to be open to this, even though when I first heard about it, my gut said, this is totally and completely wrong. But I've tried to be open about it, tried to look at it, and as long as I keep getting input, and it's not going to cost us, if this ends up being a boondoggle along the constituents in our county, I'm going to be very unhappy. If we're just dealing with the money that's on this grant already, then I feel more comfortable with it.
That's the only commitment I'm making.
That is the only commitment. One of the things that was very interesting about this particular grant, you know, again, I've dealt with lots and lots of federal grant money over the years. It's very unusual for federal grant money to be available with no matching funds. Typically, you know, you're 20 to 25% local match, sometimes 50%, depending on the grant source. So we had to commit nothing to get this grant.
I think the input along the way is vitally important to me, not personally, but a lot of my reservations are stemmed from just the sheer amount of comment and input I've got personally from my constituents that are very concerned with this. And the majority of the people that have contacted me are educators, which really concerns me. So I don't know as much as them, so I tried to find out more from them of what their concerns were, and they're very concerned. And so that's why I'm struggling, because I like what you're saying, and I believe you will be looking at the big picture. I don't have any concern about you.
Thank you.
I believe what you're saying is correct, and all of our concerns is just it's challenging for me, because I have a lot of people that are very nervous about this. And you know, that's where I'm having a hard time. And I'm not able to properly, I'm not an expert, and I'm not able to tell them. I can only tell them what I hear from you, and it's challenging. So if we approve this, we just have to have a way to be able to talk to the public. They're really upset that it was hidden in the consent calendar as well 2 weeks ago. So it's challenging. We have to have a little bit more ability to talk to the people that are affected by this, the public. So that's my concern.
What is the PFS agreement?
That stands for Pay for Success.
So that's not what that's in the future beyond this grant, correct?
No.
That's the potential future beyond this grant.
Potential future. So when we're signing this, we're not signing for a pay for success. We're signing on getting data.
We're signing for the feasibility.
Again, what you're doing is approving a personal service contract with Dan to be the project director. You accepted the grant in January. So we already have the grant. The implementation date in the grant is April 1, and so we're trying to move into the implementation stages that we expressed in the grant. You know, this is our time frame, this is the staffing, this is a project director. So we're basically in almost to the beginning stages of implementation.
And that's probably certainly my error, because I didn't realize in January we were signing on to the Pay for Success model feasibility study. I guess I just missed that, or maybe I didn't understand it. I think that's why I'm having a hard time.
I didn't understand what.
Yeah, we got the notice of the grant award in December. I believe you got that the day I got it.
Yeah.
And then in January, we brought to you all the budget amendments. You know, we had to amend our budget to show that we've got this new income. We had to amend our budget to show the expenses associated with it. So that was done. It was a few weeks maybe after we got the grant letter.
Right, I think but what it was is, yeah, I didn't understand. So as you do this, you can look into other models, like I mentioned the last meeting, the military
Model?
model that has such high marks for excellent preschool. Okay.
I got a couple just nuts and bolts stuff. Okay, so it covers Clatsop and Philomath counties, right?
Yes.
But the contract's only with Clatsop, right?
You're the fiscal agent.
We're the fiscal agent. So Tillamook County's, those school districts are all on board?
Yes,
Yeah.
as are their Board of Commissioners. They all submitted letters of support when we sent in the
Tillamook County Board
application.
of Commissioners submitted letters of support,
Yes.
and great. That's what I needed to know.
Okay.
So, yeah, I mean, if you want to talk about it some more, or we can do a motion, or we can do whatever the board would like to do. I'd like to,
Well, I'm feeling a little more comfortable about it than I was, that's for sure.
you want to make a motion and see where we go?
Oh, I like what this says. Okay. I move to approve the agreement with Dan Gaffney, Success for Kids, for project management of the Pay for Success Universal Preschool Feasibility Study for $90,000 and authorize the county manager to sign.
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second to approve the agreement with Dan Gaffney, Success for Kids, for project management of the Pay for Success Universal Preschool Feasibility Study for $90,000 and authorize the county manager to sign. Is there any further deliberations or questions? Seeing no further deliberations or questions, I'll move to a vote. All those in favor? Aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
Thank you.
Okay.
You now have a job.
I now have a job.
And I
Thank you.
think if it, can I make a small request that maybe you could give us a, progress report after a few months?
Absolutely.
Either in a memo, or we'd
Regular.
love to see you here.
I'd be happy
I
to
think a
come back.
quarterly update would be
Quarterly
appropriate.
update? Okay, thank you, Dan. Good luck.
Thank you.
Thank you, staff, for helping us get through that. And I want to compliment the board, asking some good questions, and it was a good conversation, it was a good process. Okay, we're going to move on to commissioners' reports. I just want to mention that the reason Commissioner Thompson's not here is she's attending the Cedar banquet on our behalf. Very important, and due to just a scheduling program, she was not able to attend tonight. But I look forward to hearing who won the best business of the year, and I know it isn't mine, so.
Yeah, I also would like to share the apologies of Kevin Leahy from Cedar. It was an inadvertent scheduling problem that event ended up being on the same night and time as a commissioner meeting.
Yep,
He apologizes for that.
great, thank you, Cam. Commissioner Sullivan, report, please.
I don't have a lot to report today. Tomorrow I'm going down to the Northwest Senior Disability Service meeting in Tillamook, and I hope to meet with Tim Josie also to introduce myself to him as the new forest representative. And this whole thing here is taken a lot of time the last week or so. So.
Commissioner, can I ask you a question?
Sure,
I got a
yeah.
letter today from Tim Josie saying that the vice chair of the Forest Trustlands Advisory Committee has resigned. Faye Stewart has resigned. Have you read that yet?
No, I did not get that letter, no.
Okay, yeah, it came in today. I'm sure it was sent to all members of the Forest Trustlands, so,
Maybe I'm not on that list, I should have been.
yeah.
Because I called them and asked them to put me on their email list, so.
So
I'll talk with him tomorrow.
We'll roll back to that tomorrow and talk to them, because that will be a position on the next, they're going to have to fill that at the next meeting, so we're going to want to keep our eyes and ears on what's going on there.
I know I got a notice today about canceling the FTLAC meeting in May because there's a Western Conference in
AOC?
No, it's bigger than that, I think. And that most of the people we're going to be going to. So, but that's all I know. So I guess that concludes my report today.
Commissioner Nebaker?
Let's see, I attended the Arts Council meeting, and there was a lot of discussion and concern about what the role of the council can be in assisting the public schools with the arts. And I think they may want to meet with some of the principals, superintendents, to see what that could look like down the road. I know this council is fairly new, but they're pretty passionate about how to get to work and make a difference, and that's one of the areas. And as I've said before, in May, we should have the data from the, big data, from the survey that was done. That's it.
Commissioner?
I have nothing to report.
I have just a couple things. I've gotten a number of, concerns from AOC and about funding for a number of different organizations, everything from, with the new budget that just came out on the federal level, we'll see what happens. But before the alarm bells totally go off, but there's, cuts have been projected for Oregon Coastal Zone Management Association. We'll lose that entire staff, and that organization will go away. That's been going on since the 70s, and a number of other organizations. And NOAA, who, we already know that Northwest Oregon Housing Authority and the community action teams don't have enough money to do the job they're tasked with now, and that could be, those could be jeopardized also. So we'll have to really, make sure that we let our folks know in the legislatures and on up that we, really want to protect as much funding as we possibly can. Kim, I'll let you, I've heard a number of different comments and questions about a Fair Board meeting the other day. Maybe on your report, I'll just hand it off to you. Sure. And you could maybe elaborate. And I need some clarification there because I've heard a couple different things and I think we need to know what happened.
Okay.
Yeah. So, County Manager report.
Before we go there, can I ask you,
Sure.
Chairman, the concerns about reaching out to our legislators, on some of these issues, is there anything that we should do in an organized way to do that, or?
I think down the road we may. I mean, we'll have to take a look and see what happens. Everything's kind of just, it's all talk right now. We're going to wait and see how this starts to when those discussions start coming up.
But you said May 22nd or something is when the coastal issues that you want?
May 22nd, yeah, we're going to have the Oregon Coastal Zone Management Association. We still have funding. We're going to meet on May 22nd in Salem, and any of the bills that are in the hopper that kind of apply towards the coastal zone management area, if you have any thoughts on any of those bills, definitely forward that to me, and you can go to the meeting too. And then we can.
Would that be a stronger thing for as many of us as we can to show up to that? Would that be helpful to you, or?
It's yeah, I'm not necessarily. We haven't really taken a strong position on anything. There's a transportation bill that's cooking, so it'll be interesting to see what that looks like. But one of the problems right now with the Management Association is this is our first year we've decided to weigh in on bills on a policy level, and so we're still getting our sea legs there.
Okay.
And so we're not very well organized, honestly, and we've had difficulty getting a quorum together, and so we're just kind of playing it by ear.
Okay.
And so this is our first meeting in Salem as a legislative policy, lobbying body. So I look forward to giving you a full report.
Okay.
And if there's any bills that you want me to definitely take a look at, as individually or as a board of your concern, by all means, move those on to me. And yeah.
Okay.
Fair enough.
And we as a body are going to be meeting, we're still working on finding a time for a goal. No, is that already done, or?
I think I did see April 5th, or. I hope it's not a Thursday. No, it was 2 in the afternoon on a Thursday, right? Yeah, so we'll we can talk about some of that stuff there at the goal-setting meeting. So Cam, you want to go ahead with your report?
Sure. Just, I want to give an update. Actually, this was something on the agenda last 2 weeks ago. We had presented to you a bunch of properties for property sale. One of those properties we pulled off because it seemed to be one of the few properties that we acquire through tax foreclosure that actually had some potential to provide some housing for someone. We did go out, I went out Monday afternoon with the community action team. We took a look at that property. As it turns out, one of the people that works there used to work at the City of Astoria and was very familiar with this property because it's kind of a problem property. So she's like, oh yeah, I've been dealing with this property for 20 years. And they actually think there might be some potential for them to do something. Obviously, they had a bunch of questions, which I really wasn't able to answer. They have talked to the City of Astoria about their zoning and what they would allow. They said, could this be a boarding house? Well, I don't know. That would be a City of Astoria decision. What if we tear it down? What can we rebuild? Well, again, you have to talk to the City of Astoria. So they were on their way to do that. I would expect to get feedback from them about their level of interest next week sometime. So, at that point, we can decide if they're interested, if we want to try to move forward with something, if we want to place it back on for sale. I will tell you, it is a problem property. We've literally the day after our last meeting, because it was pulled off the agenda, I got calls from residents in the area. We've also been contacted by the City of Astoria. We explained that what we're trying to do here is to see if this could be a small part of the solution to the housing shortage. But I think people are just concerned that it's going to sit there and continue to deteriorate and cause problems in the neighborhood. So, and I don't believe that's our intent. A couple of other things just really quickly. I know we've talked about this in the past. I am still working on trying to find a date for the city-county meeting. We had one, it was actually just about a year ago. As you can imagine, when you're trying to find a date that works for, the county board and 5 city councils and 5 mayors and whatever, we're still working on some dates. Everybody's interested in getting together. It's just finding a time, when we're able to do that. So one other thing I would mention just quickly, and I did send an email out to you, but last week, Michael Summers and I attended the Oregon Transportation Commission. They were considering an application for funding. This is what they call their Immediate Opportunity Fund program. And this will basically pay about half the cost of a roadway that we needed to put into the North Coast Business Park. We'll come back to you at a future meeting, maybe the next one or the one after, and kind of give a detailed update of what that's going to look like. And we're hoping that's done this year, once we get a little bit further into the year. But it's a big step for the business park because it's going to create some immediate opportunities for a business that already purchased some land from us, and also open up another piece of land that we have that will become more marketable now because it's more accessible. So. Somebody have a question?
Fair board.
Fair board, yeah, I was going to get to that. So you remember November 9th, I believe, of last year, we had a joint session with the Fair Board. One of the primary purposes of that session was to talk about, roles, responsibilities, and kind of impress upon the Fair Board that, while they have lots of discretion about how they run the fair, that the decisions that they make create legal liability for the county. And so we encouraged them to maybe take some steps like adopting some basic policies, personnel policies, and things like that. And I hadn't had a chance to follow up with them, so we had a meeting Monday night, I believe, this week for an hour or so from 5:30 to 6:30. And I think this is, from what I understand, kind of an ongoing thing. I understand the folks at the fair, they just want to come in and run a fair. They don't want to deal with policies and procedures and to do those kind of things. So, the discussions with them are usually like, why are you guys stopping us from doing things? And we're kind of going, well, we're not really trying to stop you from doing things, but, there are practices and policies that it's kind of important to follow. Because if you don't, it creates liability, for the county. So So we had the follow-up. I believe Heather told me they followed up with you, I think. I think they're going to try to work with Heather and see if they could come up with some, personnel policies. As I've told them, I don't maybe think they need something quite as extensive as the rest of the county because we're a much larger, more complex organization. But, maybe they could use our personnel policies as a model and, maybe kind of personnel policy light, if you will, if that works for them. So I guess we'll kind of wait and see, what happens after that discussion. So.
Okay. Sounds good. Okay, is that all? Meeting's adjourned. Thank you, everyone. Have a great evening.
All right.